Hi everyone, today I am building a wall-mounted bookshelf for my son's room. I started off by ripping a 4x8 sheet of plywood, 1/2 inch thick. The overall length will be 6 foot and the height is 30 inches. The next thing I did was put some pocket holes in and use pocket screws to essentially make a big box. I also put glue on the edges to add some strength. Next, I grabbed the speed square and some corner brackets, squared the whole shelf up and screwed in the corner brackets, being sure that I had 90-degree angles all around. I'm a DIYer and you can see I'm working in my garage. I have some pretty basic tools. Most of my tools are Ryobi and they've served me well for many years. If you look carefully in the background, you'll see my Ryobi circular saw, which I use to rip down the sheet of plywood. I'm using a Ryobi drill to assemble most of it. You'll also notice I'm currently using a chop saw, which is a Craftsman that I bought from Sears many years ago. If you bought a product like this in the store, it would probably cost a couple $100, but the sheet of plywood costs $30, and with glue and screws, I figure I'm in for about $50. To me, that justifies the cost of buying the tools that I need for the project, and it only takes a couple hours on a Sunday afternoon. So at the end of it, I get the satisfaction of seeing something that I built and enjoying it in my house. You can see here that I'm putting the middle shelf in. Again, I used pocket holes and glue, and I squared everything up with my speed square to make sure that I was getting 90-degree angles all around. Next, I cut the vertical shelves that are 14¼ inches tall, plus the 1/2 inch plywood would give me my 30 inches. I had to break out the table saw here because one of my boards was just a little too wide. You can see me using my fingers here to calculate exactly how far apart I wanted the shelves to be. Yes, I still use my fingers to count. Here I start putting the vertical shelves in. Again, I'm using glue, but you'll notice that I use a brad nailer to hold it in place. Since these aren't really going to be supporting the structure, the glue will be plenty strong to hold everything in place. I'm still using the speed square to make sure I have 90-degree angles all around, but I'm also using it to make sure I have vertical 90-degree angles. Using the speed square also helps me line up where the brad nails need to go. If I miss with the brad nails, which I only did once or twice, I use a pair of dikes to cut the nail off as close to the wood as I possibly can. I am an amateur, and even though I know the right way to do it would be to use a router to put some grooves in the plywood and slide it in. I chose not to take the time to do that because, again, this is a quick project that I wanted to do in just an afternoon. I'm not building a family heirloom, just something quick and functional that we can hang in my son's room to help organize some of the mess. I'm building it for a very specific location in the house, and it will never fit anywhere else in anybody else's house, so it doesn't have to last forever. I ran out of vertical shelves, and the remnant of plywood was a little wider than the rest of the shelves, so I had to break out the table saw and cut it down, or it would have been a little proud. So here again, you're going to see me find the center of that gap, and I'm going to put the board in, glue it, square it, and put brad nails in. The next thing I did was hand sand the entire thing. There was a lot of splinters because of the cuts, and I wanted to make sure that it was safe. And it also helps with the aesthetic if you have a nice smooth surface. Sanding is not fun and it takes a long time, especially by hand, but I wanted to leave it in here so that you could appreciate how long it actually takes to sand something, even though I didn't really need to remove a lot of material. This is also the step where I cut any nails that missed the boards, and then I used the sandpaper to remove any rough spot that was still left. Finally, I break out the random orbital sander. This is a Harbor Freight Special Bauer, but it works great for this, and I have no complaints. I wanted to give the face of the bookshelf a real good sanding with the power sander so that it looked smoother and had a nice finish at the end. Finally, it's time for some stain, and I chose some dark walnut. I know there are brushes meant specifically for stain, but I just use paper towels and a pair of gloves, and I stain the whole thing. It doesn't come out perfectly even, but it's good enough, and once you put everything on the shelves, nobody will ever notice the difference. Staining takes a long time, and I try hard to make it as even as possible. Again, it's not perfect, but for this purpose, it'll look just fine. I use standard bookshelf brackets to hold everything up, but I look for a stud and make sure I'm anchored into the wood. And I used a piece of wood at the bottom just to support everything real nice. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed my video.